All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of Amazon News and Insights. Today we're covering January 2021, and I am here with Kyle Olson, our Director of Strategy. So to start out, Kyle, we are going to be going through some kind of general updates. We actually have quite a few in the weeds, very tactical updates for folks, some advertising updates, and then looks like just one on the content and catalog side this month. So let's dive into it. The first update we have are purchase order changes.
Yeah, so starting last year, we started to see Amazon play around with some advanced purchase orders. So, sort of in line with a normal or traditional bulk buy, except no discount. They're just staging orders well in advance. And they've committed to that a lot more this year. And we expect to see quite a bit more in Q1 and Q2 with some formal announcements that they're going to lean more into that. Given COVID and all of the changes that we saw last year, there was quite a bit of out of stock issues that they had in their FCs, not only due to capacity and things like that, but also just ability to commit to those short term orders. So, really seeing some success from that kind of in the back half of last year, really sort of formalizing that starting to happen this year. So, we saw, I believe, starting about a week or two ago, vendors starting to see the first wave of those roll out this year. But we have full expectations really through the first half of this year, at least, that Amazon's going to lean more into that. So expect to see those future dated orders without any requirement of bulk discounts like we tend to have to see in the past.
Great. All right, next one. I think this is fairly straightforward, but browser support.
Yeah, so really random, kind of specific one, but Amazon officially announced that they're no longer going to support Internet Explorer in any of their portals. I think current use of Internet Explorer is pretty small, since most people have migrated to Chrome and Firefox and any other besides IE at this point. But I think it does signal just the continuous change with Amazon to build out their self-service functions and try to make it quicker and faster for them to build out tools and support those tools. Rather than waste time supporting older browsers, it'll allow them to be more nimble and continue to build out those solutions that we've seen roll out over the past couple of years. So I would expect this to make those iterations quicker now that they don't have to worry about supporting IE. And for those stragglers who still use IE, definitely time to move over to one of the supported browsers.
Okay, sounds good. Next one, pan EU views.
Yeah, so this one is a change on the European side where they're starting to, in some cases, combine data, specifically agreements, your vendor central agreements on the back end between all of the different marketplace accounts. Um, Historically, those have been separate portals, separate logins. You may have different terms in each country. That isn't necessarily going to change, but they're centralizing the ability to look at and review those agreements. So starting pretty soon here, you'll be able to get to those through essentially a single sign-on, regardless of how many specific countries or marketplaces you're selling in. And another just kind of step in the direction of assumed more consolidation for that moving forward within the different portals across Europe.
Great. Next one, FBA new selection program expansion.
Yeah, so last year, Amazon launched a new program called FBA New Selection, essentially a way to incentivize sellers to add new incremental selection to Amazon. Um, Essentially, it allows you to get discounted rates, waived fees, go above normal kind of storage limits, things like that. And really using that as a lever for Amazon to get people to list more new products on site. They actually saw quite a bit of success there, probably for pretty obvious reasons. I think one of the barriers of leaning into FBA is just the costs and uncertainties that come with how quickly an item will ramp up and sell. And it eliminates a lot of that concern to let you just launch product, test and learn, and kind of scale from there. So they're really doubling down on that program this year, trying to get more selection, which obviously has always been one of their core tenets. Wanting full selection as a great way to incentivize the seller community to continue to add new ASINs on site. So really extending those incentives through this year, and a great opportunity for third parties on the platform to again, basically get a credit for any new items or new selection that they want to add to their Amazon offerings.
Yeah, that's great. And we definitely recommend brands take advantage of that where possible. Um, So the next one is a little bit more involved. There's been a maybe increased policy enforcement to kind of some of the drop shipping requirements. Is that right?
Yeah, this one's interesting. So far, all we've seen, I believe, is a re-announcement of the existing policies. But the assumption is that's going to signal more active enforcement of those policies, and specifically the kind of customer experience that Amazon expects there to be when handling dropship or fulfilled by merchant offers. Essentially, what the customer gets, it should be in a non-branded box. It shouldn't have, a branded packing slip. Uh, the intention is to have that experience come as if it's being delivered from Amazon, not make it obvious it's coming from somebody outside their network. So really, they've just intentionally restated that these are the rules. There should be no other branding, no other markings, and really making that clear. And I think it's going to signal some extra attention there, since there's really historically been some limited oversight in Amazon really having a handle on what that looks like. And I think this is more so going to apply to some of the more kind of fly by night or less established sellers on site that literally just drop ship or do retail arbitrage. They find a lower offer on something like Chewy, they sell it on Amazon. When somebody buys it on Amazon, they buy it on Chewy and ship it to their customer on Amazon. They never touch it. It's in a Chewy box. It's a weird scenario for the end customer.
Yeah,
That type
yeah,
of scenario, I think, is what they're going after, but really pushing to make sure those policies are known. So if you're legitimately drop shipping, definitely make sure you're compliant with those terms. And again, kind of as masked as possible, without any branding, logos, that sort of thing on the packaging.
yeah. That makes sense. I mean, I think having your own brand on the box somewhere is, I mean, technically violates Amazon's policy, but is not widely enforced. But yeah, drop shipping from another retailer or having some sort of incongruous customer experience. Because one thing to keep in mind there is when the customer orders the product, they order it as ships and sold by Amazon. So when they have a different experience, that can be kind of odd or potentially misleading. So
Yep.
it makes sense that Amazon would be kind of ramping that up, the enforcement of that. So last on the list of kind of general updates before we get into advertising, payment service provider program.
Yeah, so this was an announcement where, through essentially Seller Central payment disbursement options are being kind of restricted or limited. I think there's a variety of different ways that Amazon can deposit funds owed to a seller through these different providers. I believe mostly for kind of offshore or sort of international um, sellers. And really, there's now going to be a kind of specific vetted list of providers that sellers can use to get those payments deposited. And I think this is more so around really fraud on site, as an added way to vet that sellers are legitimate businesses, verifying who they are, where they are. There's always been the option to deposit directly into a bank account. That's not changing. I think that's still preferred because it has that level of kind of authenticity implied. But just being more strict on those other payment providers, and really making sure Amazon's working with those providers to make sure the sellers using those providers are, again, sort of legitimate brands, sellers, et cetera, and not just kind of popping up overnight and causing some churn or fraud on the site. So there's a handful of providers on that list that have been kind of pre-vetted and approved. I believe Amazon's going to be pretty committed to building that list out, just to not lock people into a select few providers, but really doing their due diligence to make sure, again, they're kind of complying correctly with those normal kind of business operations that they want to require on site, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So now on to the advertising and marketing updates. We have three updates here. First one on the list is Netherlands expansion.
Yep. So another quick one, really in line with our prior months, where we've always seemed to announce a new rollout into a new marketplace. Latest news there is expansion into Netherlands with sponsored ads and brand stores. So again, another step of Amazon kind of ramping up and getting to more parity from an advertising persptive, well, all of those solutions in the different marketplaces that they have a normal retail store within. So just the latest one there. Fully expect more to come there with other marketplaces and other ad services among the ones that are still lagging behind.
Great. Climate pledge friendly updates.
Yeah, so most of you probably remember last year Amazon announced a new initiative or program called Climate Pledge Friendly, an added way to really incentivize brands, products to be more sustainable or just environmentally conscious in terms of how they're packaged and by essence how they're marketed and things like that as a way to remove or lower the brand's footprint, Amazon's footprint, and really cater to that market for customers that are really interested in that sort of thing. There's been some updates there where Amazon has just rolled out some changes to further incentivize that from a brand perspective, specifically through advertising by giving some different opportunities for targeting different behavior groups and things like that, where those products specifically can be targeted or advertised much more granularly than previously, or kind of in the same boat as just normal everyday or non-climate pledge friendly product. So really just Amazon doubling down on that focus and commitment to sustainability, and really kind of catering to brands that want to lean into that. If they already have the selection there on site or are working towards it, they're building up the merchandising on site with the different kind of branding, badges, things like that, and now giving more tools to proactively drive those products in a way that they think is really going to resonate with their customers.
Interesting. Cool. Last one on the advertising and marketing updates is an update on Amazon posts.
Yeah, so we saw a couple different metrics roll out into Amazon Posts recently. This is their program where you could essentially have sort of a social media feed on Amazon. It's currently still free, so pretty low hanging fruit to get some incremental free traffic on site, even if you're just repurposing, content you're posting on Facebook or Instagram or something. At launch, this was a pretty minimal program from a reporting perspective, but they are rolling out new metrics, including reach. So we could actually keep track of unique customers that are seeing those posts, where previously we could only see total impressions. So kind of pick apart those two options now, as well as some different engagement metrics, click-through rates, things like that. So not a major change, but incremental improvements there to make that more data-driven, and probably something that they'll continue to build out in line with all of their other solutions.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. All right, last update on our list, Seller Central Image Management.
Yeah, so this is one we've seen be problematic for quite some time, but Amazon rolled out some new bulk image maintenance tools, specifically on the seller side, to make it easier to just add bulk products or remove bulk products from really your whole catalog, multiple ASINs at a time. Previously, it was pretty manual and or hit or miss in terms of that really succeeding on the first try. So further improvements there, just from a catalog management perspective, really kind of getting more in line with the vendor central side, where they've had better bulk options for a while, but rolling that out to self-service for easier image management, kind of in line with a lot of the different content changes and pushings, or content changes they are pushing out over the past couple of months that we've talked about in prior episodes.
Yeah, that's great. I know lots of people will be happy that that's a bit more streamlined. Kyle, thank you for your time. As always, thanks everybody for listening. We will see you back here in a month and go through this all over again. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, John.